morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we got a brand new Ace Spec that we need to be talking about, which is coming along in Night Wanderer. It's literally, as I record this, just been revealed over in Japan. So the question is, what is this new Ace Spec? And what does it do? I did, as always, do the translation myself here, but I have checked with a lovely Antoine Boulet just in case I've done a silly. Let's face it, I'm getting pretty good at my translations, I think. Am I Antoine good? No, obviously not. So what we've got here is Pokévital A. It's coming around in Night Wanderer, and I'll be honest with you, straight off the bat, it's got some competition. It does a very similar kind of thing to a bunch of Ace Spec that we've already got. It heals 150 damage from one of your Pokemon. That's what it does. Flat out heals 150 damage. But there is a catch. And it's not a catch we haven't seen on other Ace Specs. It's one that we've seen on a couple now, and we're probably going to see it again in the future. If this card is in your discard pile, it cannot be returned to your hand or deck. Now, obviously, that means if you end up discarding it in the early game with something like a Professor's Research, for instance, that's just going to feel bad. But the reason, of course, it's in there is to stop it being used multiple times. This is an incredibly powerful card. Heals 150 damage. That is an absurd amount of healing. Being able to potentially reuse this and just use it every single turn would be absolutely ridiculous. And look, we've seen this in the past. Not with healing, but think about Life Dew. Remember Life Dew? How it stopped you giving up a prize on a single prize, or, gave up one less on something else? Yeah. And then at the same time, we also had Puzzle of Time, which could get it back out of the discard pile. And we had Sableye that could recover Puzzle of Time. Clearly, Pokemon have seen in the past that actually maybe letting us recover these Ace Specs is generally a pretty bad idea. And maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be doing that anymore. Just as an example. If anyone's wondering, incidentally, the other Ace Spec to which I am referring, in terms of not being able to recover it, it's actually the only Stadium Ace Spec that we have had so far in the game. And it is also coming in Night Wanderer. It's Neutral Center. And basically, it says that Pokemon that don't have a rule box don't take damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and V. But if it's in your discard pile, it can't be returned to your hand or your deck. It is important to note that we've now had two like this. I'm kind of interested, and I don't know whether it was a consideration that they decided against or whether it only came up a bit later. I'm wondering if maybe there's an argument here for Ace Specs having a rule that they cannot be recovered. Because that's two in a row now, where Pokemon have been like, hey, here's a ridiculous card. Oh, by the way, you can't recover it. I'm not saying that there should be a rule that says that's just standard for Ace Specs. But I am saying it's starting to make me wonder. Now, obviously, in terms of this new one, it's the new Gold Potion. We saw that Scoop Up Cyclone literally just got reprinted as is. This, however, is like 1 billion times better. It's phenomenal compared to Gold Potion. Gold Potion healed 90, this heals 150, although power creep obviously very, very important. But then that could be recovered and this can't. And the thing is, this is basically a stop KO Ace Spec. This is a ha, you thought you were going to KO me, joke's on you, I ain't KO'd, in your face kind of card. And the problem is, we got a bunch of those already. So there is going to be a real question here as to which of the no, please don't KO me cards we're going to use. Because take Scoop Up Cyclone as an example. Scoop Up Cyclone puts one of your Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand. That is, of course, complete healing. Although there are other situations where you can get cheeky uses out of it. Say, for instance, you're just drawing completely dead, but you've got a Luminion on your bench. You draw into this, you can use that to pick up your Luminion and then play it back down again, go and grab yourself a Supporter. Probably not what you want to do with it most of the time, but my point is, if you're absolutely desperate, it will do that. Now, there's an argument here to say, look, Pokévital A, you don't have to pick up your Pokemon, which is actually a big deal, because if you pick up your Pokemon, fine, you don't lose any cards, but you've got to reattach energy, you've got to re-evolve, etc. You've got to get back to the position you were in, whereas Pokévital A will literally just remove the damage, and you're good to go. So let's take a look at a deck that does tend to use Scoop Up Cyclone as their Ace Spec of choice, Dragapult. Well, the problem with Dragapult is that it's got the Stage 1 Dracloak. So you don't mind picking up your Stage 2 Dragapult, because you're probably going to have a Stage 1 Dracloak sitting on your bench anyway. So you use the ability, and then just evolve a Dracloak, whose ability you've already used, into a Dragapult, and then you just bench a Dreepy, knowing that next turn you can evolve it to a Dracloak and use the ability. You're not giving up any of the Stage 1 abilities, but you are getting your Stage 2 evolved up immediately again. And then you look at the attack cost for Dragapult, it's 2 energy. And a lot of the time you're going to be playing some kind of energy acceleration. So I'm not terribly worried. Like, in a Dragapult deck, there will be exceptions. Obviously there'll be exceptions, right? But most of the time in a Dragapult deck, you can afford to just pick it up. And here's the thing. One of the reasons Scoop Up Cyclone works so well in Dragapult is for the mirror. Well, Scoop Up Cyclone heals 200, essentially, whereas this heals 150. So you're healing less. And fine, that still leaves you out of range of a 2-hit KO from Dragapult, but it's still less healing overall. And that's kind of my problem here. Similar kind of tool we see as an Ace Spec in Temporal Forces, already come out, was, of course, Hero's Cape. Gives you an extra 100 HP. Clearly a good card. The thing is, this isn't really competing with Hero's Cape. Hero's Cape gives you an extra 100 HP. This lets you heal 150. Well, clearly 150 is a bigger number than 100, yay. But the whole point is you'll put this on to prevent one-hit KOs. We especially see this in decks like Snorlax, for instance, where you're trying to avoid the KO, and you don't really want to heal 150. I mean, sure, that would be fine in Snorlax, but the point is what you actually want to do is have that extra heft now to avoid being KO'd in a minute. The other one we've got is Survival Brace that came around in Twilight Masquerade, or I suppose it's coming around, so it's not technically actually out yet. Basically prevents a one-hit KO. If it would have full HP, would be knocked out. Well, good news, you get down to 10 HP remaining and then discard it. Incidentally, can be recovered, so if you can get it back, you can replay it. And this is fine, but again, it provides a very different kind of thing. This is, you cannot one-hit KO me. Which, incidentally, is very nice and similar to Hero's Cape, but you've got to be on full HP. Survival Brace can be played around by just dropping like 1 damage, whereas Hero's Cape is just going to give you that extra 100 HP. Scoop Up Cyclone is probably the biggest threat to Pokévital A, and honestly, a lot of the time, the complete healing, combined with the fact that you can also pick up a Pokemon to reuse its coming into play ability, makes me like Scoop Up Cyclone a little bit more. And let's take Blissey as an example here, because Blissey is a big deck that you can imagine would love a card like this, and in a vacuum, Blissey would. 300 HP, moves energy around, does 180 and draws until you have 6 cards in your hand. In theory, this would be great for this. Take a hit, most things don't one-hit KO you, and then you can just go ahead and heal up. But this is a deck where, if you look around the City Leagues, a lot of them are playing Survival Brace, because actually there are still some things that will one-hit KO you, and guaranteeing that you don't get one-hit KO'd is big. Plus, of course, don't forget you got Monkey Dory, which lets you move damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon, which of course means that you can Not all of the time, but a lot of the time you can basically guarantee that you're not getting one hit KO'd. Because the only way to really get around Survival Brace is to try and leave a little bit of damage on there. But Monkey Dory, it moves 3 damage counters if you've got a Darkness Energy attached. But obviously Blissey lets you move Darkness Energy around, so you can potentially have 2 Monkey Dory being activated off a single energy. So you're going to be doing a little bit of healing in those regards. And then you're going to have full HP, and then Survival Brace is going to work. And that's kind of my point. I do think this is a good card, let's be clear. I think it's a very good card. But here's my problem. I look at Dragapult that uses Scoop Up Cyclone, and I'm like, nah, I've got a really good stage 1, and it's a 2 energy attack. Scoop Up Cyclone works beautifully. And I look at this in Blissey, and I'm like, Blissey would love this, but you know what? I don't like it over Survival Brace. And Snorlax would like it, but I don't like it over Hero's Cape. Because Snorlax could actually heal from 10 damage remaining right the way up. But really what you'd rather is just not get KO'd. And honestly, Snorlax could very well go to Survival Brace for the obvious reason. So then you end up in this situation where you're like, I like this card. This is clearly a very good card. But I don't know where I would play it. And that's essentially where I am with Pokévital A. I do think it's a very good card, but I don't know when I would ever actually play it in a deck. Also, as a side note, there is a hilarious interaction you need to know about with this. Pokéstop. Because remember, Pokéstop does let you get item cards, but we need to go back to the wording of Pokéstop. It's very, very important. Pokéstop doesn't say, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put item cards in your hand, discard the rest. No. Pokéstop says, discard 3 cards on the top of your deck, put any discarded item cards into your hand, but if you tried to do that with this, the second part of the card would stop you, Pokéstop would discard it, and it would stay in your discard. This would be bad. I'm giving this between 3 and 4 Wassies, which on the one hand seems too high. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. And on the other hand seems a bit too low. Clearly a very powerful card, but one that I just do not see where it fits in the metagame or what deck it goes into. But if you've got an idea, let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Eric Ridgway, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.